I've done a lot of work on myself, and I really do feel stronger than I did a few months ago. Probably, I would say more grounded and more aware, and most importantly, less reactive. Which is why it surprised me how quickly everything unraveled over something so small. So last night, me and my daughter were at our neighbor's house for dinner. It was easy, it was comfortable, it was warm, it was fun. Kids were playing, adults were talking. And I remember thinking, wow, like we've really built something here. At some point, we decided it would be easier for me to bring the high chair over to their place, so dinner would go a little bit more smoothly. So in the shuffle of that decision, I left my phone on my kitchen counter. My phone, which also happens to be my key to the house, and my door auto locks. So when dinner ended and I went to take my daughter home, I realized I couldn't get inside. And just like that, panic, anxiety, restlessness. My mind started racing ahead of me. I've put the neighbors out. I should have known better. What happens to tomorrow now? Everything is ruined. Now my husband's able to unlock it remotely, but he was away on a work trip, and that often means that he's got late nights, he's got a conference, his phone might be on Do Not Disturb. I was not confident that he would get back to me very quickly. So I was panicking. I was there unraveling. Here's the part I didn't expect. My neighbors didn't see chaos. They saw an adventure. They laughed. They set up bath time for both kids. They offered me their guest bed. This was a work night. Like, it was the middle of the week. They even handed me their phone and gave me the passcode so I could try to reach my husband. And I remember, as I was putting my daughter to sleep in a house that wasn't mine, I just lay there and cried. Not because anything terrible had happened, but because my brain was telling me it had. It kept whispering, old stories like, "You're a burden. You messed up. You don't get to relax tonight. I imagined the dark. I didn't get my normal show that I get to watch. My routine was completely off. I had zero control over the situation." And it just felt like total and utter chaos. But from, around the house, I could hear the neighbors walking around, talking quietly to themselves. And I'm sure they were talking about how funny this would be one day, how this was becoming a story. Eventually, my husband saw my messages and reached out and remotely unlocked the door, and I was able to carry my sleeping baby home. And as the neighbor helped me bring the high chair back upstairs, he smiled and said, "We're family now." And something in me softened, because the thing that felt like a failure had actually brought us closer. And this is why I still struggle, even after doing the work. Not because the work didn't work, but because life will always surprise us. And the work doesn't erase fear. It doesn't prevent discomfort, but it does help us notice it sooner, and it helps us stay present inside of that discomfort. And the moments that shape us aren't going to be the smooth ones. They're the nights that don't go according to plan. The stories we didn't choose, the chaos that turns into connection. So I'm learning that growth isn't about never falling apart. It's about trusting that even when you do, you're not alone. And sometimes What feels like a breakdown is actually the beginning of belonging. Maybe healing isn't about making life predictable. Maybe it's about learning how to stay open when it isn't. As I'm continuing to reflect, I realize that my nervous system didn't actually fail that night. It did exactly what it learned to do. Scanning for danger, preparing for blame, anticipating loss. And the difference is that this time I stayed. I didn't shame myself for panicking. I didn't spiral into a story about who I am. I let the moment pass through me instead of defining me. There was another moment recently, smaller, but just as revealing. I snapped at my daughter over something trivial. And it was something where I guess she wasn't going down for a nap the way that she normally does. And I was getting very frustrated and definitely let my anger show a little bit. And immediately I felt helpless, like I'm alone in this whole parenting thing. And it's so funny how those words rush in. Like, it's barely even about this, but I felt like no one sees how much I carry. Woe is me. So I asked myself, what am I needing right now? Like, why do I need her to go to sleep perfectly the way she normally does? Like, why do I need this so badly that I'm getting frustrated with her? So I apologized for snapping. I let her get up and play a little bit, and she had fun exploring around the room, and then eventually she came back and she was ready for her nap. I calmed down. I let her be who she needed to be. The resentment dissolved, not because the situation changed, but because I listened to what she needed in the moment, you know? Motherhood has definitely taught me this lesson over and over and over again. I can plan the nap, I can plan the outing, I can plan the mood, and then my daughter reminds me, gently and relentlessly, that control was never the point. Some days go sideways before noon, and those are the days my nervous system wants to declare a failure. But those are also the days I'm learning to breathe, to adjust, and to stay soft. Not because I've mastered calm, but because I'm practicing presence. And the more I practice, the easier it'll get to stay present in moments where total chaos reigns. And here's a closing thought. I feel like I used to think strength meant staying composed, and I think it's more about staying connected. Connected to myself when I'm feeling overwhelmed. Connected to others when I'm embarrassed. Connected to the moment when it refuses to behave. That night with my neighbors didn't go the way I planned. But it went the way life does. Unpredictable, inconvenient, and strangely generous. And maybe that's what doing the work is really for. Again, not to avoid those hard moments, but to recognize them as invitations instead of threats.